Yes, people, how's it going? Welcome back to Lily White Lane. Hope you're doing good, hope you're keeping safe and well, and hope you're having a ruddy good Tuesday morning and smashing beginning to your week. Thank God that absolute shower of pygmy hippo shit of a season is over. The streak is over. It's finally done. Look, I love Spurs as much as the next Tottenham supporter, but it's been long, it's been painful this season, and we haven't had any sort of positivity or optimism for the last, 4 or 5 months. It's been so painful. We found different ways to lose poorly. And look, since Antonio Conte got sacked, it's just been such a negative place to be as a Spurs fan. You know, everything around the club's been so negative. But look, I'm glad it's over because at least now we can focus on the summer. We can focus on, the players who we're going to bring in, the next manager who we're going to bring in. I emphasise hopefully because Daniel Levy's our chairman. Let's not forget that. But hopefully we can bring in a manager who us fans can get behind, and at least just head into next season, feeling fresh as a football club and with some sort of optimism about our team, which we haven't had over the last few months. But look, before we put this absolute shit show of a season behind us, I want to come on here just like I did at the end of last season, just like I did at the end of the season before, and bring to you fantastic people an end of season review where we go through all the turning points and all the talking points from a Tottenham Hotspur perspective. So let's take you back to August 2022, and this is one thing that makes this season more painful: how positively we started this season off. And I'm not just talking about the results we got at the beginning of the season, but the optimism in the fan base. Looking back on it in hindsight, we realised that last summer's transfer window wasn't actually that good. But at the time, we thought we'd had one of the greatest summer transfer windows ever in the history of the club. And a lot of that for me was just because of the excitement around the club and the way the season had finished before. Antonio Conte at the helm was our manager. We were excited about that. And look at the way the season before ended. Got into the Champions League for the first time in a couple of years, stopped Arsenal getting into it. We really thought that would make us kick on and make them struggle. Didn't really work out that way, but look, at the time we thought Arsenal would really struggle this season. We thought, we could really kick on this season, maybe even contend for the title. That's laughable now, I know it is, but even I thought, you look back at some of my videos at the beginning of the season and other Spurs YouTubers, I genuinely thought we can contend for the title. I never thought we'd win it. But I genuinely thought we could have a go at it. I really did, because of the way the season before started, and just because of the excitement and the optimism that every team really gets before the start of a new season, but especially when you finish the last one off positively. The excitement and positivity we had around the club. It was such a good time to be a Spurs fan. We felt so excited for the new season. And look, you look at some of the signs we brought in now. Bissouma, hugely injury prone. Perisic, in my opinion, too old, gets exhausted after 60 minutes and isn't good enough. Richarlison overspent, where if we brought in a centre-back, we could be talking about Spurs being in the Europa League or Champions League. But at the time, we didn't think of it in that way. We thought those players would step up. We, couldn't have anticipated a Bissouma injury. And we felt so positive and excited about the transfers we've made, about the fact Antonio Conte was our manager, and about the fact that we were about to play Champions League football. Let me take you back to August 2022. The season kicks off at home against Southampton, and look, there was a lot of expectations around Spurs. There isn't normally, but there was a lot of pundits predicting us to finish second, third, even a couple first. And did we deliver in those first couple of games? Kicked off the season with a 4-1 smashing against Southampton at home. Great result. Kulusevski on fire. And look, followed that up with a poor performance at Stamford Bridge, but a result at Stamford Bridge. And I think just getting a result at Stamford Bridge, before we knew how shit Chelsea would be this season, getting a result at Stamford Bridge meant the world to us Spurs fans. And it genuinely, made us Spurs fans feel, hang on a second, we can actually kick on, because we never get anything. We never get anything at Stamford Bridge. It's always been Spurs' bogey ground. Chelsea have always been Spurs' bogey team, and doing it in the fashion we did, getting a last-minute equaliser there, we thought, hang on a second, okay, the performance has been poor today, but we can kick on because we're still getting results when the performances are poor, like Spurs don't normally do. Week later, Tottenham Hotspur followed that up with a 1-0 victory against Wolves. Decent victory, not much to say about that one in general. Not the best performance, kicked on in the second half. That's the theme this season, though. In a lot of games, we've kicked on in the second half and we weren't that good in the first half. Week later to that, 2-0 win at home against Nottingham Forest. And look, this is when our Spurs fans started looking at the beginning of the season going, great, we're getting victories. But are the victories papering over the cracks a little bit? We were still positive, we were still optimistic at this time, but we go, are the victories papering over the cracks? Because you're looking at some of these performances. The Wolves one, not that good, but we got to win. The Forest one, not that good, but we got to win. But we got a bit of luck in those 2 games. Didn't ride our luck for the rest of the season because it didn't work out for us. But at the time, I think when we beat Nottingham Forest, that's when a lot of pundits started picking up on it and a lot of fans going, Spurs are getting results, but they're poor performances and they're bound to drop off. For Spurs fans, I think we sort of, didn't like taking in that information. I think as Spurs fans, we tried to ignore it and go, it don't matter how you perform as long as you get the results. But you look back on it now, the pundits were right and a lot of the fans were right when they were saying these results are papering over the cracks and the poor performances will eventually get the better of us and we'll start losing games. And that did happen soon, but not just yet. Followed that up with a 2-1 victory at home against Fulham. Very, very positive result. Really good performance actually in that game. Much, much better than the performance against Forest and Wolves. Højbjerg scoring a good goal as well. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that game, especially, the Richarlison moment at the end. We thought that was the beginning of his season. The beginning of his season, his first goal was against Liverpool like a month ago, but at the time we thought that was the beginning of his proper season, and then the goal got disallowed, like a lot of Richarlison goals this season. Then in the week after, right, big game for Spurs. Spurs' first Champions League game, Marseille. This is when we were excited as Spurs fans. And yet again, a shit performance. An absolutely shit performance. But we got the result. 2-0 win. Richarlison with 2 headers. Then we thought the lad would kick on. He still didn't after that. But look, Champions League campaign kicked on right. That was a good moment in the season. Okay, we were still putting in poor performances this time of the season. But I think we weren't top because Arsenal were. They were just picking up win after win after win. But I believe we were like second, third, something like that. We were around Arsenal. I believe we followed that up with a Leicester game. I may be getting this timeline completely wrong, but probably one of the most funnest games we've had this season, the Leicester game. Absolutely thrashing them lot 6-2. Leicester were even worse at that point of the season than they are now. But look, game goes 2-2 at half-time, second half. Heung-min Son, he was the man of the moment in this game. Absolute worldies. Twice. Two absolute worldies in that second half to give Spurs the victory, and another goal in there as well. I can't even remember who. Oh yeah, Ben Sanko made it 3-2 at the beginning of the half, and then the Son hat-trick. And look, what a positive day that was, 6-2. And there's been a lot of questions before that about Heung-min Son this season. Is Son really stepping up? Is Son, doing a job in there for Spurs? Is Son struggling? And for this time, he shut the haters up. He didn't really for the rest of the season and after that. But at this time, he shut the haters up a little bit with that hat-trick. It was a fantastic hat-trick, and we felt very, very positive after that. Look, I'm going to struggle to remember the order that the Champions League game's in, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the rest of the Spurs games up until December, and then I'm going to go through the rest of the Champions League games as well. So I'm going to go through the Prem games up until December, then the Champions League games up until December, and the rest of the group. So our next game after that 6-2 thrashing against Leicester, I believe, was the 3-1 against Arsenal. And this was a kick in the teeth. This was our first loss of the season, and it was a painful one. It was a really painful one. The performance in this game, like I say, we had a few games at the beginning of the season where our performances weren't as bad as some people like to call them. But, we just didn't take our chances in this game. We just didn't take our chances, in my opinion. Arsenal went 1-0 up early. Absolute stunner from Thomas Partey. Spurs equalised. And look, for the rest of that second half, for the next 15 minutes of that second half, or first half, I should say, we were all over the scum. Wave after wave after wave of attack. Didn't take our chances. Hugo Lloris makes a terrible blunder. This was his first one of the season. Lot more where that came from. But look, his first proper blunder of the season. And gave Arsenal the lead. Royale got sent off. Sent fans absolutely crazy at him, especially because of the stupid dance he was doing before the game. And 3-1 Xhaka, and that was a painful day. Especially because we played so well, in my opinion, in that first half. And just the way we crumbled in that second half. We didn't need to get sent off. And you're looking back at that game now, even going, two moments in that game. The Royale sending off and the Lloris mistake. If it ain't for those two moments, we win that game because we had the momentum, in my opinion. We did have the momentum. But look, we followed that up, I believe, with a, like I say, we'll go through the Prem games, then we'll go through the rest of the Champions League group stage. We followed that up with a very good win away at Brighton, which I think a lot of us fans didn't expect. And then followed that up again with a 2-0 win against Everton. Very, very positive result, that win against Everton at home, sort of dominated the game. Week later, Manchester United at home, I believe. Like I say, I might be missing out an occasional game here and there. I do apologise if I do. There's 38 of them to go through. I'm trying to go through the most important ones. And this was our worst performance of the season. That Manchester United game. The Arsenal one, there were mistakes in this one. The Man United 2-0 loss was just an absolute pathetic shit show. I remember it now. Man United having something like 35 shots and Spurs having a couple. We had one chance with Harry Kane and that was it. It was barrage after barrage of attack from Man United. We had no response. 2-0 win for them. Could have easily been 5 or 6. This was actually a game where Hugo Lloris did step up, to be fair to him. He did step up for once in this one. But look, it was a shit game. It was an absolutely shit game, that one. Followed that up with a Newcastle game. Another shit game. 2-0 down at half-time. This was becoming a theme to be really struggling at half-time and, having to step up in the second half. And look, 2-0 down at half-time. Poor mistake again from Lloris. I believe this was his second mistake at this point of the season. And look, he just had a great performance against Man United, but he made another mistake, and it simply weren't good enough. Joe Linton scoring, Almiron scoring, responded in the second half again. Too late, too little too late from Spurs in that second half. Another result I remember up until December was a 2-1 loss to Liverpool. Very, very, very good performance, that one. Genuinely was a very good performance. And look, we played very well in that second half, and very well for most of the game. I think after the first 20 minutes, we were the better team. We genuinely were the better team after the first 20 minutes, but it doesn't work out that way. Liverpool clinical at the beginning of the game. Even though they're having a shit season, we still couldn't get the result. Missed some big, big chances in the second half. And that was it for the Premier League. Oh, yeah, sorry, I nearly forgot one of our best games of the season, the 4-3 against Leeds. That was an emotional rollercoaster. We shouldn't have conceded 3 against Leeds. But that was a fun game. So, look, that's the Prem done, heading into the World Cup. Let's talk about what happened in the Champions League now, before the World Cup. I started off talking about that 2-0 win against Marseille. I believe our next game was Frankfurt away. And look, to be honest, we done well to get a point out of this game. We did do well to get a point, coming off that North London derby loss. Very, very tough place to go. We done well to get a point in that game. We did. And look, looking at other games in that Champions League group stage, our next game, I believe, was Sporting Lisbon away. That was a game where we performed quite well. We did perform quite well up until the 90th minute and got stung with 2 goals, out of nowhere. And at this point, when it comes to our Champions League campaign, we were thinking, shit. We started it off so well. We've only picked up a point in our last 2 games. We're thinking, we better not get knocked out of the Champions League in our first season back in it for a few years. But we didn't end up getting knocked out, and that was due to some of the results that we did follow that game up with. Frankfurt, I believe, was our next game as well. At home, 3-1 win there. We needed that. We massively needed that in our Champions League campaign. Followed that up with Sporting Lisbon, which gave us one of our best moments of this season. That didn't actually count, but the emotion and the moment was still quality. Sporting Lisbon at home. Spurs needed a victory, to get out of the group. That's all Tottenham Hotspur needed. A victory, and Spurs qualified. Spurs went 1-0 down immediately to Marcus Edwards. 80th minute, Ben Tanker equalised with a header. Look, this was another poor performance. Another poor first half, a better second half. And then in the 90th minute, the ball's flicked down to Harry Kane, who smashes it into the corner. Fans go absolutely insane. Crazy scenes at the Spurs Stadium. And then VAR, the wankers that they are, disallow the pissing goal. I mean, look, they have been kind to us before, VAR. I will thank them for that Manchester City game at the Etihad, always. That was one of the best moments of my life. Followed by the by the Ajax game. Well, the Ajax game was better, actually. But, sorry, I'm digressing. I'm going off topic. Going back to the good times. But, look, for me, that goal wasn't offside. I can still picture it now. It was the little knee down. It was not offside. Bollocks was it offside. They drew the lines wrong. Genuinely, they did draw the lines wrong. You can look back at some of the lines that should have been drawn there, and VAR got it wrong. They got it wrong, and we should have qualified in that game. But we didn't. We got a point. And this is when our Spurs fans were getting really nervous. We were thinking, what's our last game? Marseille away. Marseille away, right? First off, Marseille need a win to qualify. So they're going to be going hammer and tong. They're going to be throwing absolutely everything. They're going to be chucking the kitchen sink at us. Second off in this game, how many ex-Gooners can a French team have? Guendouzi, Kolasinac, you know? And I was looking at that game going, don't be Spursy. Like, seriously, just don't be Spursy in this game. Please don't be Spursy. Please don't do it today. And we almost did. We were 1-0 down to a good header from Mbamba in the first half. Equalised at the beginning of the second from Longley. And it was a poor performance for most of this game. It really was a poor performance. 87th minute. Kolasinac misses a sitter. Oh my days. My heart skipped a beat. My heart genuinely skipped a beat. And you know how people say when you're dying, right? And this might be an over-exaggeration. So many things flash through your head. It felt like that. It felt like so many things flashed through my head at that moment when that ball was just floating to Kolasinac. I was thinking, we're about to get knocked out to an Arsenal player. They're going to be laughing at us all night. You know, we're about to get out of the Champions League, Europa League. Here we come. And he missed it. He missed it. A minute later, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg smashes it into the corner, a goal. And it's 2-1 Spurs. Spurs not only qualify out of the Champions League group stage, but top the group. Still looking back at that now, that was one of the best moments of the season. Spurs topping the group, wonder goal from Højbjerg, poor performance. But look, when you look at the Premier League and the Champions League, heading into the World Cup, it's not been the season we expected. We really expected to maybe push on, contend for a title. We hadn't done that. Also, I forgot getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup to Nottingham Forest. That was poor as well. But it not been the season we'd expected so far when we headed into the World Cup. But then at the same time, it hadn't been the worst season. We'd put in some poor performances. We ended the first half of the season, I believe, in 4th place. Man United in 5th. And yet, like I say, it wasn't the worst place to be as a football club. Tottenham Hotspur, Antonio Conte was still our manager. There was still positivity. But then at the same time, it wasn't the best either, you know. So we headed into the World Cup break slightly less than content, but not in a terrible mood. Okay, not in a terrible mood. Before we start off after the World Cup break, Romero won the World Cup. Congratulations to him. Some great performances from Spurs players in the World Cup. And we headed into our first game back at the G-Tech Stadium. Look, I didn't expect much from this game. I didn't expect much. And I looked at it then as a good point. I did think it was a good point because Brentford have only lost one game at home all season. They've done the double over City, looking back on it in hindsight now. But only lost, once at home, or dropped points once, I believe, at the G-Tech at that time. And look, it was a very good comeback from Spurs. Very good comeback. Carried on the season just where we left it. Getting ourselves in unnecessary positions where we need to come back. And even in that game, you questioned, if we didn't concede those 2 stupid goals and our defence was better, we would have comfortably won that game. Same with the Leeds game before the World Cup break. But look, 2 goals from Brentford. 2 really good goals from Spurs, to be honest. Great header from Harry Kane and great strike from Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. 2-2 draw. And then we're thinking, okay, you're looking at the fixtures Spurs had at this time, and we're going, we need some results, man. We do need some results, because we were looking at it at the time going, okay, what are our next games? We've got Brentford, we've got Villa, we've got Palace, and then it starts getting difficult. Then we've got Arsenal, then we've got Man City away, Man City at home. We had some really tough games after these 3 games. Did we pick up the points we needed? No, we didn't. We followed that up with a game at home against Aston Villa. Very poor performance. Could have easily lost that 3 or 4-0. Spurs out of the top 4 again. Buendia with a good goal. Sorry. And again, in the same season, a stupid mistake from Hugo Lloris ends up costing us a game. Absolute moron. But look, I thank Hugo for what he's done, but this season, man, the amount of points this guy's costed us, if we had a decent keeper in goal, we would have got Champions League, genuinely, with the amount of points this guy's costed us. But then at the same time, if my aunt had bollocks, she'd be my uncle. Do you know what I'm trying to say? If we don't. So, tough shit. But, look, Hugo Lloris cost us more points there against Aston Villa with a stupid little chest down. I don't know what he was doing. And then we needed a result at Crystal Palace. We needed it. We were looking at that game at the time going, okay, yes, they've lost a few games on the run. But this is Spurs. We know Spurs don't like going to tough places and tough atmospheres. Please don't crumble. And to be fair to us, we didn't. We put in a very, very solid performance. 4 goals in the second half. Harry Kane scoring 2. You know, who else got the other ones? Doherty as well. I don't know. Why did we get rid of his contract? Tear it up. I still don't get that now. I really don't get that. But look, Doherty scored. I can't actually remember who scored the other goal, because we hadn't brought in Poro at that time. But yeah, 4-0 win there, and we needed that. We needed some momentum heading into the North London derby. That was our next game, the North London derby at home. Arsenal on absolute flames. Absolute flames at this time of the season. Spurs struggling, but we still believed. We thought, you know, the amount of times before Arsenal have been flying and they've come to our stadium and they've lost, because it's the North London derby. We know that form goes out the window. Or form usually goes out the window. It didn't fucking go out the... Sorry, excuse me. It didn't go out the window this season, but we know that form goes out the window usually in the North London derby. You know, the amount of times even we went to their stadium and been, you know, under Pochettino flying, and they've been really, really struggling under whoever their manager's been, whether it's Emery or Wenger, and they've got a very good result against us. So, look, we headed into that game optimistic. Worst possible start. Hugo Lloris, he's made errors this season, but butterfingers, absolute butterfingers. The ball comes to the guy, it's a cross by Saka, straight at him. Hugo Lloris, for those WWE fans, right, Hugo Lloris, right, you know when Shinsuke Nakamura, the wrestler, the Japanese wrestler, he goes up against the side and he starts doing that. That's what Hugo Lloris was doing for that goal, started doing the strong style thing. I was like, what's he doing? What's he actually doing? It comes straight at him. Guy starts flapping about like some sort of pigeon. That's Richarlison's job, not yours. Trying to do the Shinsuke Nakamura thing. Concede straight away at home in the North London derby. And in this melon again, lets in a shot from like 30 yards out from Odegaard, which didn't have that much power. Goes down, like, it takes him 50 minutes to go down to the floor to try and save that. And we head into half-time, 2-0 down against Arsenal, thinking how we not 5-0 down. Because Partey's hit the post at this point. They've missed some big, big chances. And this time, our second half performance wasn't good enough. And I said this a lot at the beginning of the season. I'm sure Spurs fans did. And looking back on it, you can see this. Second half comebacks and performances were good enough to get results against Brentford and Palace. They weren't against the Arsenals. They weren't against the Manchester Cities. Because once the damage is done, it's done. The damage was done in that first half. Ramsdale made some great saves for Sessegnon shot and others in that second half. And we just couldn't score against them. We just could not score against them. And look, pain. It really was painful. I understand Arsenal were flying. But that was our worst result of the season because it was Arsenal at home and because of the way they just dominated us. And for me, this was when it really started to go downhill. We'd had poor performances. We had the Villa result. We had the Man United result. The Arsenal result earlier in the season. But for me, this game is when it really started to turn for Spurs this season and turn for the worst. We followed the North London derby result. What was our result after the North London derby? I'm trying to think now. Oh yeah, it was Manchester City, I believe. Manchester City away. We took on the Thursday after the North London derby. We actually started the game on fire. Unexpectedly, you thought it's happening again at the Etihad. You know, we had visions of that Kane winner last season. We were 2-0 up at half-time. 2 poor mistakes from Rodri, actually, who's been one of the best players this season. But then again, our defence just crumbled in that second half. The likes of Dyer, the likes of, you know, Longley, just not doing their job like they have all season long. It was pathetic from them. You know, City scored 4 in a half, like 3 goals in about 20 minutes. That was pathetic. That was absolutely pathetic. What an absolute shambles and shit show that really was. But look, we had to play City again a week later. We had the FA Cup weekend where we beat Preston North End 3-0, I believe. And then we had to play them again. We had to play Manchester City again at home and win. How is this streak still going on? How? When Spurs have been absolute dog shit. Like, seriously dog shit. Even last season when we were actually good, when we beat Man City at our stadium, it was under Nuno. How have Man City not scored a goal at our stadium in 5 games? And how have we beaten them 5 times in a row at our stadium? Man City, the team going for the treble year in, year out. 3 times winner, 3 title wins in a row. And shitty old Spurs, who finished 7th a few years ago, narrowly got in the top 4 last season and started the season mid-table when we played them. And then this season finished 8th, still gets a positive result against them. There is a curse there. There genuinely is a curse there. The football gods, I believe in them, and they genuinely look down on that game and just don't allow City to score. They don't. But look, City weren't even good in that game. Spurs were, but it came at a cost, that game, 1 minute it was like if you guys have seen that DT video of, twat obviously after what he did, but that DT video from Arsenal Fan TV when he's celebrating that goal in the North London derby, he's going, yeah, yeah, and then he goes, oh, that was my reaction when I realised we'd just beaten Man City, but we'd also helped out Arsenal in the title race. We'd also given Arsenal an 8-point lead in the title race. Now you look back on it, I think City might have been doing it on purpose. I think City might have been, just give them a little lead, like you do, when you're racing someone who's not as quick as you, like, I'll give you a little head start and then just mow past them. That's what City were doing, man. That's what City were doing at the time. But look, it was a good result. And again, for some reason, as Spurs fans, we're about to kick on, get in. We didn't kick on. Bullshit did we kick on, What was our game after that? I'm still trying to remember. Some of the games we've actually had. I believe it was it the Champions League? Yeah, it was the Champions League. It was AC Milan away at the San Siro. 1-0 loss there. Poor performance. Could have been more. But we looked at that going, okay, come to the second leg, we'll see what happens. It might change around in the second leg. Things might change. We'll see what happens there. Hopefully we can get a result against them. AC Milan at home. 0-0, worst performance of the season, right? I know I've just skipped a week. On the weekend we lost to Wolves. No one gives a shit about that. And the week before, what a horrible week this had been, man. What an absolute horrible week this had been. I've just remembered it. The Wednesday before, we lost to Sheffield United. Not Sheffield Wednesday on Wednesday. We lost to Sheffield United the Wednesday before. Then we lost to Wolves on the weekend, and then we've been knocked out of the Champions League in the week. So in the space of a week, we've been knocked out the top 4 race, the FA Cup and the Champions League. Our season was over in the space of a week. Football. Bloody hell, in the words of Sir Alex Ferguson. But look, AC Milan at home. So much optimism in that game. All we needed was a goal. A goal, let me remind you, against a very bang average AC Milan. Okay, they beat Napoli, but that's, in my opinion, is because Napoli were focusing on the Scudetto. But yes, they beat Napoli, but they were bang average, man. Look at the way Inter absolutely dealt with them in the semi-final, and we just couldn't score. We just couldn't score in that game. AC Milan defended well, fair enough. But it just looked like we didn't give our all. We were sat back at times, letting them have the ball. It's like, why? If they're willing to set back, just put wave after wave after wave of pressure on them. Why are you being reluctant? You're 1-0 down. It's now or never. 'Cause I ain't gonna live forever. But yeah, it was now or never. Spurs didn't act like that. Spurs act like they got a third leg to play. Third leg. Anyway, sorry, childish. But Spurs acted like they got another leg of the match to play when we didn't. Lost the game, on aggregate 1-0. Spurs knocked out of the Champions League. It was painful, man. It was really painful. Knocked out of the Champions League and the FA Cup in the space of a week. And I forgot to mention as well, the results that came before this as well, a couple that I forgot to mention. We beat Chelsea 2-0. Very, very positive result there, but not a positive performance if we're being honest. And we should have been more excited about beating Chelsea, but we weren't. And the 2-0 against West Ham, I forgot to mention those two. And obviously the 4-1 against Leicester, that was an absolutely pathetic performance. But going back to being knocked out of the Champions League, I think the turning point in our season was the Arsenal game, but this is when it started to get even worse than it already was. This is when the shackles completely fell off. This is when there was no more paper over the cracks. The paper over the cracks has been completely ripped up, and the cracks have been opened up even more than they already were. So, look, we followed this up. 3-1 win against Forest. Not much to say about that one at home. A week later, this was the worst point of our season, honestly, and the fallout of this affected our season dramatically. 3-3 away against Southampton. Spurs took a 3-1 lead at one point in this game. 10 minutes to go, 3-1 up, concede a goal like Spurs do, give away a stupid penalty where Pape Matar thinks he's the Karate Kid and fly kicks a Southampton player, and James Ward-Prowse puts it away. 3-3, and the fallout of this was insane. Pressure was already mounted on Conte from a lot of fans. A lot of fans didn't like what they've seen over the last few weeks, in my opinion. A lot of that pressure and what's the word? A lot of that frustration for me should have been targeted towards the ownership and not the manager. The manager always has been targeted under this ownership, and there's been 15 and not one's been successful. But Conte's post-match press conference happens, and this is what got him sacked. There was no other option than to sack him after this press conference, but the reason he was let down was not his fault. The reason he failed at Spurs was not his fault. It was Daniel Levy's and the ownership and the club for making wrong decisions and not properly backing him and not giving him the players he wants, bringing in players like Spence. But, his post-match press conference, every single word that Conte said was right. When he said they don't want to play under pressure, they don't want to play under stress. We saw that most of this season. We've seen it for many years with this group of players. And we saw it in games we're about to talk about as well that happened at the end of this season. When he also said 20 years there as the owner and they've never won something. That's factual, and he's spot on. And you can see he cares about the fans. A lot of fans had a go at Conte for this. I'm like, why? I understand he's having a bit of a hissy fit, but you'd also get annoyed. These same fans would get annoyed about a manager who shows no emotion and is a media darling and just tells people what they want to hear. No. I was glad that Conte was calling out the board, but they sacked him for it. Understandably so. But at the same time, like I say, the reason he failed at Spurs was not his fault. It was not Conte's fault, the reason why he didn't do well at Spurs. It was Daniel Levy and Enix for not properly backing the lad. The guy's a world-class manager. But look, sack Antonio Conte, bring in Stellini, 1-1 draw away against Everton. We should have got a result there. And like I say, some of these silly games, the Southampton game, the Everton game, we don't concede last-minute goals there. Right now, we're probably, finishing 2 points off top 4? On the last day, it would have been a game to try and get us into the top 4. And as bad as this season's been, it's just those little results and those moments of Spursiness, again, alongside the really poor performances and poor bits of defending, that have just cost us. That have really cost us. But look, 1-1 draw away against Everton at Goodison Park. They were picking up some form at that point, lost it a few weeks later. 2-1 loss against Brighton. Not the best performance. Man of the match in that game, to be honest, was VAR. Great goal from Sonny. Got very, very lucky. Followed that one up with what was our result after that? I believe it was the Newcastle. No, it was the Bournemouth game. That was painful, man. 1-0 up. Bournemouth take a 2-1 lead. We equalised really late on Danjuma. I mean, we needed a win there. We knew we needed a win, but an equaliser, a draw is better than a loss. And then in the final minute, concede a last-minute winner, which we did over the next few weeks quite a bit as well, but conceded a last-minute winner there at home. That was pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. The story of most our games this season. Really, really poor. And yeah, they were the better team there, Bournemouth. Deserved to win. Deserved to win away against us. Then the Newcastle 6-1. I mean, I don't even want to talk about this one much. We've talked about this one quite a bit on the channel. I don't care what the ownership have done after all. They've refunded the fans. The fans will never forget that. You lost 6-1 away to Newcastle. I know Newcastle are good, but they're not title contend worthy. They're not contending for a title. And how, as Tottenham Hotspur, a team that's meant to be contending for Champions League, can you be losing 6-1 to one of your rivals for it? 6-1. 5 goals in 20 minutes. Teams like Watford concede 5 goals. Only one other team in the Prem's conceded 5 goals in 20 minutes. That's Watford against Man City away. We're Tottenham. We're not in a relegation battle. I mean, if we didn't have Kane, we probably would be. But we're not in a relegation battle. Teams like Watford do that. Spurs don't concede 5 goals in 20 minutes. It was pathetic. It was depressing. And it was so infuriating and frustrating. And I think that result was probably one of the best things that could come out of this season, because if anything, it woke a lot of fans up to the problem that is Daniel Levy, woke a lot of fans up to the problem that is Enoch, and how bad this team really is, how our league position for a majority of this season had papered over the cracks. And from then onwards, it was just poor again. It was really poor again. Sacked Stellini. You know, in the first place, why are you bringing in Stellini for Conte? I mean, what did we actually expect? He's been with Conte most of his career. Do you expect him to come in and play some, like, 4-3-3-2 formation or something stupid like that, or 4-2-2-2? No, because he's been with Conte his whole career. Why are you appointing him in the first place? It was never going to work out. Lost 6-1. Sacked an assistant for an assistant. Get good old Ryan Mason in, because he's bloody great, isn't he? 2-2 draw against Man United. At least we showed a bit of passion in that. And then once again, Spurs find another way to let you down and lose. Another way to let you down and lose. You know, 3-0 down at Anfield within 10 minutes. Bring it back to 3-3 in the final minutes. 3-3 at Anfield. You know, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. The crowd goes crazy. Away end goes mad. Richarlison with his first goal. Minute later, more lovely through ball to Diogo Jota, who sticks it in the back of the net. Spursy. So Spursy that result. I'm not going to say it's almost like we're a social experiment. We're just finding different ways to lose. Oh yeah, well, do you know what we'll do? We'll score a last-minute equaliser and then concede against Bournemouth. And we'll do the same against Liverpool. Oh, that's getting a bit boring now. It's like the script writers are just going on that. Oh yeah, we'll have to add in a 6-1 as well in there. Just finding different ways to lose more embarrassingly week in, week out. Look, since that Liverpool game, it's been shit as well. You know, got a result against Palace. The Liverpool performance was good, may I add, but I don't really care about performance at this point of the season. And that Liverpool game was the end of our top 4 hopes. It was. I think it was officially as well. It was the end of our top 4 hopes. Definitely. And yeah, from then on, it was hard to care for the rest of this season. It was hard to care after the Newcastle and Liverpool games. Beat Palace 1-0 at home. Didn't really care about that as fans because of the way the team had been performing. It was really depressing. Yeah, okay, good goal from Kane. We'll get on to Kane in a minute, but good goal from Kane. Followed that up, I believe, with a 2-1 loss away at Villa. Then 3-1 loss in our last home game last week to Brentford. And then just on Sunday, a 4-1 win against Leeds. Farewell, Lucas Moura. I think that's one of the things we've got to take out this season. Lucas Moura, I want to wish the guy the best of luck. But yeah, that's been our season. I've gone through pretty much every game in our season there, given my thoughts on every game, given my thoughts on what the turning points are. In my opinion, the point where it really started to go downhill was that Arsenal game, and the nail in the coffin was the AC Milan game. From then on, this season's been been one of the worst in our histories. A lot of people go, oh, the 90s this, the 90s that. I was looking back at it. 95-96 season, we finished 8th, 61 points. Joined on 61 points, funnily enough, with 4 other teams. So, you know, if our goal difference was better, we would have got 4th. But finished on 61 points, you know, in 1995. Finished, I believe, 8th. That's the same as this season. People say the 90s are worse. We're going back to what it was in the 90s. Spurs are a team on the decline. They are a team on the decline. And that's why I couldn't wait for this season to finish. Because now we need to get in a new manager. We need to get in one fast as well. Because look at the mistakes we made years ago, man. A couple of years ago, we waited and waited and waited. Fans got more angry and angry and angry. Nuno was appointed. It was a rushed appointment just to settle the fans down. He was never good enough. And you can see us making the same mistake. We're being linked with 50,000 managers and you know, being turned down. And we're turning down managers. I mean, we just got to appoint one. Just appoint someone who we can really trust. Pick your target. Why can't we do what Man United have done over the last few years and get a manager, focus on that manager and bring him in like they did with Ten Hag? Chelsea, as soon as they sacked Potter, they've been after Poch and they've got him. One manager. But no, Spurs have to be linked with 50,000 managers. Spurs have to be linked with every single person who's got some sort of football IQ on planet Earth. It pisses me off, man. It really does. And I think we're more living in hope than we are expectation for next season. Genuinely, we finish 5th or 6th next season, that's progress. I will take that. At this point, I will take 5th or 6th with positive football. And then from then on, you develop. Well, of course I want trophies next season. That's what I want more than anything. But we're nowhere near contending for the league. For me, we're nowhere near Champions League level. And teams are going to be getting better as well. Chelsea have got Pochettino. They're going to be getting much better. You know, you're looking at other teams as well who are going to be getting better. Newcastle are going to be improving. Arsenal improving, looking for Gundogan. City are always improving. Liverpool are going to contend for the league again. You know, we're getting left behind. We are getting left behind with the improvement of Brighton and Villa as well. And sides like that, they're going to have more money and probably, you know, do better business than us this summer because they got better owners. We're being left behind. We're on the decline. And for me, next season just needs to be focused on getting ourselves back into that sort of big six, getting ourselves back into contending for something. Because at the minute, we're getting worse and worse. And at the minute, I expect us to do worse next season. I expect us to finish, honestly, 9th, 10th. Honestly, people laugh at that, but it's so bad. It's so bad at the minute, and that's why I say just please get in a manager. Don't make a mistake because you've waited so long. You know, we've had so many days without a manager, and we're not even really focusing on a main target and haven't decided one. That was the point in bringing in an interim manager, so you can really focus on who you want. We're nowhere near deciding. We're not even in talk with one at the minute. Spurs are being linked with Postecoglou, linked with this man. Get them in soon. Get them in soon, man. The season's over. What are you waiting for? You're just longing out the hunt for a manager. So then by the time we do bring in a manager, they've got less time to bring in the players they want in the summer transfer window. It's so infuriating. It's so infuriating. Look, I've gone on a bit of a rant. Hopefully next season can be a lot more positive. Player of the season, I think we can only give it to one man, and that's Harry Kane. Genuinely, a shining light in this shit show of a team. With no Harry Kane, I said it on Sunday, with no Harry Kane, we'd be exactly like Leeds. Without Harry Kane, we could be in a relegation battle with the side that we've got. People laugh at that. Genuinely, I don't know why you're laughing. It's been relegation form at the end of this season. Without Harry Kane, this team would be absolutely in the mud if they aren't already.